Welcome in, guys. Today we got Jim Fox on. It's a little bit of a somber interview, so I'll get straight to it. So sit back, relax, and hope you enjoy. Welcome in, guys. Today we have a returning guest, Jim Fox. We're going to be talking about a recap of the LA Kings 2024 to 2025 season. So let's get started. So the first question I have for you is, how well do you think the Kings performed in this season than years prior?
Well, I think, Grady, I think they exceeded my expectations during the regular season. Uh, I mean, bottom line, they ended up tied with the most points ever in franchise history. So, and along with the best home record they've ever had, the best home record in the entire league. So,
Hmm.
from that standpoint, there was a lot of good things going on in the regular season. I think the growth of Quentin Byfield, the influx of the new players, everyone that was acquired by then GM Rob Blake, seemed to work. Kemper in goal, Edmondson back on the blue line, Fogel up front, Jeannot up front. All four guys really had an impact. And I think the turnaround of Kevin Fiala to become just much more of a reliable player, along with his skill. Uh, Second best goals against average. And with all these numbers, Greg, we're talking about right now, we should be happier than we are right now. But obviously, the playoffs were a different thing.
Hmm. I agree. I think the goaltending really progressed a lot from last year, and the players really turned into their turning the Jets on really like towards like the end of the season, which was I think what made us get the home ice advantage in the
Right.
playoffs. My next question is, how do you think the Coach Jim Heller, how do you think he did in his first full season with the Kings?
Again, we're going to talk about the regular season first. I think an outstanding job during the regular season by Jim Hiller. Again, to keep the same type of defensive structure and the numbers against second best goals against, and still, starting to score more near the end of the regular season. The power play coming on like it did. So much more of a team that the other, opposition teams had to worry about, because I think to a certain extent, before it was more just defense, 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 and no counterattack. I thought the counterattack got better because the power play at the end of the season was better. The penalty kill was strong all season long.
Mhm.
Again, if I look at Jim Hiller, again, I look at how he was able to bring in four new players and make sure they fit into the team, uh, oversee the continued growth of Quentin Byfield and how he progressed to the point where you could argue he might have been the number one center by the end of the season. And then again, I think his biggest impact on the team was how he worked with Kevin Fiala and how Kevin, like we talked about, became more reliable, less risky, still producing, still intense, very few undisciplined penalties. And I think Jim Hiller had a lot to do with that. He talked about having some uncomfortable conversations with the Kevin Fiala, and then all credit goes to Kevin for making sure he understands that at this stage of his career, he's 28 years old now. It's time to really buckle up and do what's needed, and he did more than that.
I uh, I agree with that. I think the culture was a big thing this year. I think the I think the coach really tried to build a culture off of those hard hits. Like I saw a lot of those harder hits this season, and
Yeah, yeah,
I saw like a lot of uh, I saw like a lot of momentum carry on into the first round.
yeah. The Kings thought they were going to be more difficult to play against, a little bit rougher, a little bit tougher, and that did go throughout the lineup. Again, when you got to the playoffs, unfortunately, Tanner Jeannot, who probably took the lead in that area, was not available due to injury, and that was one area that the Kings didn't have a lot of experience at, and unfortunately, they missed him into the playoffs.
Mhm. My next question is, what players on the Kings intrigued you most as the season progressed?
Intrigue. That's interesting. Yeah. I think Edmondson, for the standpoint of how much ice time he still maintained and got. I think certainly when he was acquired by the Kings, a lot of people were concerned that he wouldn't be able to log a whole bunch of ice time. He did, and then as the season progressed, he just became a fixture back on the blue line. Again, Fiala to me, he stands out as the guy who you talk about intriguing or interesting, or just the way he was able to really turn around his mental approach to the game and how he fit onto a team, knowing that he's a great hockey player as far as skill goes, but also doing the things necessary to make sure his teammates and his coaching staff were able to trust him. And then Warren Fogle, I think he the consistency was there, and it wasn't a lot of highs, a lot of lows. Just right from the start of the season, right till the end, it seemed like he fit. So that really caught my eye as far as how long he went and being as consistent as he was.
I don't know. That's some interesting choices because a couple of those players, as you mentioned, got acquired in the trade deadline, so they really had to adapt in some ways to kind of fit into the LA Kings culture of what they were trying to build. So just like the way they were able to adapt to the Kings culture, I think that caught my eye in the regular season and the
Maybe,
postseason as well.
maybe the guy that was even more, you just brought it up, was the trade deadline, was Andrei Kuzmenko, who came in and
Mhm.
really revitalized the power play. I mean, almost single-handedly, he changed the approach, what the Kings were doing. The Kings, and we talked about Jim Hiller, the use of 5 forwards on the power play, which not a lot of teams do. So, but Kuzmenko probably, yeah, he deserves a lot of that credit as far as coming in, being a factor offensively, buying in defensively, making sure he's playing at both ends. And we probably, didn't get to see him enough to see if he could sustain that over a full season. But what we saw was real good.
And my next question is, what are your thoughts on Rob Blake moving on, and how do you think this will impact the Kings in free agency and heading into the draft?
Well, I think Rob had a lot to do with the success. And I know Rob made some comments publicly about, and I've chatted with Rob. He just pointed out the fact that 4 years in a row they lost to Edmonton. He felt they didn't go over the hump. And, I think general managers and coaches, they ask everyone else to be responsible for what they, you know, achieve out there. And he felt he didn't live up to those. So as far as I'm aware, it was his decision to not come back. And I think that's admirable from Rob to take a look and again hold himself accountable.
Mhm.
And that's something that, and again, if you were to look at just the last year, again, the acquisitions Rob made, he hit up, he was batting 1,000. I mean,
Mhm.
everyone he picked up, all the new acquisitions were there. But it's always a hard thing because I've known Rob for a long, long time. I've known him since he came here as a player and joined the Kings. So that's always difficult. But I think again, it's admirable that Rob he saw that he was not he's in charge, and the team did not have the success after 4 years in a row against the same team in the Oilers, and he uh, he went down with the ship.
No, and then because of this move that the Kings made, how do you think the culture of the LA Kings will change as a result?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that needs to change. I think the players that are there are trustworthy, they're
Mhm.
reliable, they're competitors. I don't think anyone was upset with the compete level, what was going on, that type of thing. Obviously, very disappointed in the playoffs, and that's the next hump, obviously, that the Kings need to come, get over. But just extremely, extremely disappointing. You always give credit to the opposition. You have to. Edmonton went all the way to the seventh game of the Cup final a year ago.
Mhm.
Now they're still alive in the second round, taking a 2-0 lead over Vegas as we speak. Um, I think that's the disappointing part was the Kings probably, and most people, including myself, felt they, as far as personnel, had the best team that they've had in quite a while. They put themselves in positions in games and couldn't finish out. It looked like they couldn't handle or balance that the going forward versus hanging back. And then when they had leads in the playoffs, they hung back too much and just allowed Edmonton to, just Edmonton's just building that momentum that was tough to stop. The pulling the goaltender situation, the Kings did not defend those well. The coach's challenge on the goaltender interference, critical moment. And then the critical moment came 10 seconds later when Edmonton scored on the power play. So a lot of things to be disappointed about because of what looked like a very good group of players. So again, I don't know if culture needs to change that much. It just needs to get into a situation where they all believe that they were good enough to establish a lead in games, and they should be good enough to close out those games.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up there because um, I definitely saw in the playoffs. They weren't really like closing out some of the games, and I think the first game was really a big game in terms of how the Oilers kind of tested the Kings and battled back from the big deficit they had in the first period. So I think that that that's like a big um, that's like a big thing in their culture that like to perform well under pressure.
Yeah, that's the bottom line right there. That is the bottom line. When the game's on the line, you've got to be able to close it out. And you go back to game 3 and how they lost that with then game 4 and not getting the puck out late by Quentin Byfield.
Mhm.
Great in sports, there's a saying, it's not how, it's how many, meaning just get 4 wins. Doesn't matter how, but I felt the way the Kings lost games 3 and games 4 affected the rest of the series. It affected game 5. The emotional letdown after 3 and 4, the Kings could not bounce back. They did a pretty good job bouncing back in game 6, but by then, perhaps, I guess, with Edmonton and the role they were on, it was a little too late. So still some growing pains, still a ways to go and learn. But again, hopefully, I think the core is pretty good and you don't want to tinker with that too much.
Mhm. Yeah. And then what are some key elements or ideas do you want the Kings to bring into next season?
Well, first of all, they have to sign some players. Gavrikov is probably
Mhm.
number 1 on the list. He's a free agent,
Yeah.
so he has his choice. There'll be some teams coming after him, so there'll be some bidding wars and negotiating issues that have to take place. Kuzmenko
Mhm.
is a free agent. Again, we don't know as much about him, but we saw, we loved. Got to sign him. They have some restricted free agents. I think Alex Laferriere has to be re-signed. And then with the cap going up and some cap room, how many free agents can they go out and get, and how many free agents will they be able to sign? You would hope they would be able to sign 2 impact players as far as free agents, along with signing all the guys that we just talked about. Again, you're going to have to juggle some things as far as the numbers and the salary cap, but that's where the Kings feel they're in a window to win right now. And if that's the case, then they have to be able to go out and acquire those players.
Mhm. And I think it's good that you bring that up because uh, like a lot of the pieces you just brought up are reliable pieces for the Kings. Like Gavrikov, he's a good defenseman. I actually met him one time
Oh, okay.
after he got traded to the Kings from Columbus. So that was a
Nice.
pretty nice moment for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a good guy. He's a type of guy that he has a lot of personality. He has fun when he comes to the rink. There's some guys that balance the serious versus having fun. Some guys go too far either way. I think Gabby's the type of guy that when it comes time to play, he's there. But he's one of those teammates that really is fun to be around. So that's another aspect of why you would want him back.
yeah. And, I also I also met Alex Laferriere back in
Good,
training camp. So
nice.
I feel like those are a couple good pieces to bring back into next season to
Yeah.
really build off of um, what they had at the end of the season. Thank you for your time, Jim Fox, and hopefully we'll do better next season.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for having me all season long, and we'll talk to you next year. And then hopefully in the playoffs, we'll have a lot more fun to talk about.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you guys so much for watching this interview today. If you guys enjoy this interview, make sure you drop a like, consider subscribing, and see you guys next time.